In 5, 4, 3, 2. I'm having a challenge with Facebook. YouTube should be live. We are live.
YouTube is live. I think Facebook is the one that is not live.
Perfect. Everybody, we are live. So I'm having a small challenge with YouTube. Just a second. I guess we'll have to do with Facebook alone. Anyway, hi everybody who's joining us today for this conversation. The conversation today will be about a book tour. As you can see, I'm sorry for the guys who are joining us on Facebook. We had a small challenge with Facebook, and we shall just continue with YouTube. As they say, the show must go on. I know for those guys who are supposed to join us live from Seattle, I'm sorry because of COVID rules and regulation, we have to resort to doing it remotely. My name is Kennedy Maikuma. I'll be the moderator for today. And with me, I have a panelist of individuals who who will be who shall help us to discuss the conversation we have. Uh, a brief about the introduction of the people who are joining me today. My panelist is made up of people who survived the genocide against Tutsi in Rwanda in 1994. For some of us, 94 was just a normal year. There wasn't much going on, but within my panelists, it was one of the changing times of their life. I'll let them introduce themselves, at least to give us who they are before we continue with the conversation. First and foremost, I'll start with the author of the day. Oh, and my panelists have best-selling authors. I have authors and even have upcoming authors and also have political figures with us. I'm humbled to be part of the moderating team. And first and foremost, we'll start with our main author of the day, who is Aline Umutoni. Aline, please, would you like to introduce yourself to the guys? Thank
Thank you so much, Ken. I greet to everybody. My name is Aline. If you don't know me yet, then you know me. I am originally from Rwanda, just like the people that will be talking today. It's really an honor to have these people to be able to talk today because we are going to share our story. We are going to talk about our history, what made us who we are, and it's something that I just am so grateful to do because it's to help every single person um, that is going through something to know that it's not the end of the world. Like that there's a bigger purpose and a bigger plan for your life. So I'm so grateful and I'm so happy to have this panelist here. Um, yes, this is a book tour from Bondage to Freedom. However, we are also commemorating the 27th anniversary of the genocide against Tutsis of 1994, and I have three speakers today, and my plus me four speakers that are genocide survivors that we were there. We were in Rwanda when it happened, and we had different ages. I was 5 years old. Jean was, I think he was 12
12,
or 13,
12,
12.
12.
And then Josiane and Honorable Harriet, they were older than us. So you will hear different level of experience, and that's what actually the beauty of this panel. But I just wanted to first honor my aunt who's in this panel. I call her my aunt because I see her as my aunt. Honorable Harriet Severa. She's I call her honorable because she is honorable, not only to me, but she's a senator, and she and my dad, they were in the same political party. So she's known my parents before I was even born. She knew my mom before I came to this earth. She knew my dad before my parents knew each other. So it's really an honor to have her on tour to be able to share her story and also share the story of my family, because she helped me understand more why my dad was in politics at that time, what my dad did with the party, and how they fought to have the right for that is working today. So thank you, Honorable Harriet, to come for this panel. I really honor you. I love you, and thank you so much for being here. And I also have Josiane and Jean. Jean is an author. He also wrote a book. He's a genocide survivor. He was 12 during the genocide, so he also shared his story of how he survived the genocide. Then I have Josiane, who's in process of writing her book, and she's also going to share a little bit about her story of survival and how she's been using the story and the event to be able to be the woman that she is today. So today is going to be an amazing time, and I thank all of you three for being here, and I also thank the moderator, Ken, for doing all of this. And I'm looking forward for this. So anybody watching, please share. Share to your friend, share to your enemies, share to your grandparents, share to everybody you can share, because I know that it will be a blessing to people. Like, I know that this conversation will bless everybody that will be listening. So thank you, Ken, and back to you.
Thank you, Aline, for the brief introduction of the team. Now, before I go to individual introduction, Aline, I would like you to introduce yourself, at least for somebody who is coming here for the first time who really doesn't know who's Aline Umutoni, or one who haven't heard your story before. This is probably the first time they're interacting with you. What would you tell them it's about? A bit small introduction about yourself. Who's Aline
Okay,
and what is
so
Aline all about? Yes.
anyway, so my name is Aline Umutoni. I am 32 years old. I am originally from Rwanda, East Africa. I was raised in many countries. I am a genocide survivor of 1994, the genocide against Tutsis of 1994. I was 5 years old. I witnessed my father being killed. I lost my mom when I was 13 months. She was also killed. She was at the wrong place at the wrong time, at the wrong place at the wrong time, and she was killed. I survived the genocide by the grace of God. I say not on my own, because I don't think I could have done it by myself. I'm also a sexual abuse survivor, so I have a lot of I survived a lot of things. I survived pain, betrayal, everything in total. And I also wrote a book called From Bondage to Freedom. This is the book. Sorry, this is the book, How God Turned My Pain into a Purpose and My Mess into a Message. And yeah, and I'm excited to be here. So that's a little bit about me.
Right.
Thank you, Aline. And the next person I'll give a chance to introduce themselves will be Jean. Jean, could you introduce yourself to people? Tell them
Thank you.
about Jean, what is Jean all about? Who is Jean?
Thank you, Ken, for giving me this opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Jean-Leonard Kagabo. You may call me Jean, or you may call me Jean. So either one works for me. I am a genocide survivor. I was 12 years old when the Rwandan genocide against the Tutsis in 1994 happened. I lost my parents. I lost my 4 siblings, 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and many of my family members as well. I moved to the United States in 1998, 4 years after the genocide, and started life here, going to school. And later on in life, I decided to share my survival story and wrote a book called Angels on My Path, which, by the way, can be found on Amazon. Um, and I have a child at half years old, boy.
Thank you, Jim, for the nice introduction. And the rest of the other guys, I think I'll go to the next one and the next upcoming author. Do you remember I told you earlier in this panelist, the first two I've introduced are actually authors. They've wrote books regarding their story. My next guest, my next speaker, she's actually she has a book in the fireworks. I
Yeah.
think Josiane, you should be the right person to tell us more about yourself and what's coming up.
Okay. I'm happy to be here today. Yeah, my name is Josiane Umulinga. I am a mother of three beautiful children, two boys and one girl. Most of all, I am saved and I love Jesus as my personal savior. I would like to share a bit, since my story is not yet in book, maybe I would like to share a bit of my story. Is it okay?
Yes, yes, it's okay, it's okay. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yes.
So I'm a Rwandese and I was born in a big, modest, and a Christian Tutsi family. I had 8 siblings. My dad was considered to be a successful man of his entire extended and nuclear family. We didn't have much, but we were not lacking much either. I lived the life of sharing less and becoming enough and become enough. The love, the laughter, the joy was the part of my childhood. We had a prayer room where all neighbors were coming to pray every 6 p.m. and it was a must to attend 6 a.m. mass. That was summary of my pre-genocide life. My nightmare started in 1994, where FPR, Calampton government, came into the country as rebels. All Tutsis started experiencing threats on their personal safety, accused to be their accomplice. In fact, my mother was jailed for 6 months. Fugitive life continued until April 1994, where proper genocide against Tutsis started. We managed to hide in neighbors for 2 weeks until they threatened those who hid us to be killed on our behalf. Yet they were not in their target group. My family my family had a strong relationship with the neighboring Hutu families. As a matter of fact, they didn't have the courage of killing us until they solicited military enforcement for their duty. I remember when when the military came, my mother bribed them with the money to buy the luxury death, bullet-based instead of machetes. Now, as a mother, is when is when I realized the pain of our beloved parents enduring during the genocide. During the genocide. No mother who can wish her children to be killed in front of her eyes. Since we were young, my sister and I made the decision at least to make the soldiers chase us before they kill us. Surprisingly, they didn't, since they were busy with others first. This is how we survived, my sister and I. The 18th of April 1994 was the darkest day of my life because of because 6 members of my family were executed 5 minutes after I left them. Not all Hutus were bad. I commend the courage of Hutus like Samuel's life family, who took the great risk of their life by hiding our last born, who survived as well. My 3 sisters, my father, and I survived the genocide against Tutsis. the life after genocide was extremely confused. My father learned how to be a widower and us how to be orphans. I got married young and I was happy to leave the country, and I hope that forming my own family will help in my healing process and regain the joys of life. That marriage was ups and downs like many marriages, but it ends up with my ex-husband leaving me to another woman. That was that was a wound within a wound, or a double betrayed. First betrayer was Rwandese killing each other because of the tribal ideology. Second betrayer was for my ex-husband, who worked to live and raise our children together, but he ends up leaving me. All those major rejection of my life, Jesus picked me up in that desert to work with me. In fact, I say it with a big smile. In that encounter with the Lord, the Spirit ministered to me. He told me that the initial plan of God creations was the right person and an ethical human being, that the rest is the result of the fall. God didn't create killers, He didn't create cheaters, robbers, and all those. From that revelation, I changed my perspective I had towards the killers by forgiving them, by looking at them as beings made in God's image. The problem is not them, but what, or rather, who made them do evil. Devil is a liar. That perspective toward people lifted the burden from my heart. I started discovering the purpose of my life, and I understand the reason why I survived. I was one survive I was one survivor compared to millions of casualties. I discovered more potential in my life, like being a strong businesswoman, and regain the joys of in my life by raising my children. More details of my healing journey are in my ongoing book project titled "The Killer and the Cheater Are Forgiven: The Power of the Grace." Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josiane. We really
Yes.
look forward to read the book. For some of us who are lazy
Thank
to read,
you.
have a book for us. At least we can listen to it while we run along. Now, the next speaker I'm about to introduce to the panelists will be Honorable herself, but towards the whole thing, I'll be calling her auntie because to also I consider her as an auntie. So, Honorable
Just call me auntie.
AKA auntie, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kenneth, for this opportunity to tell the world about our story during, or before, and after genocide. I'm Sebera Harriet. I'm a widow because I lost my husband during genocide, and I lost a daughter. Even I lost 45 members of my large family. After that, I had earlier joined politics, 1991, when the multiple parties were established in Rwanda. Before, we had one single party, a political party. We had one single political party called MRND. Every Rwandese was supposed to be there automatically. But before that, I've got a background of being also a refugee. After the abolition of the kingdom, of course, Tutsi were forced to go in exile. So we were staying in Eastern Province, and my parents were forced to run away to go in exile in Uganda. I was born in 1960, and I went to exile when I was 1 year old. We stayed in the refugee camps, and we stayed there. But then I had my auntie who was here in Rwanda. When she was visiting her siblings, her brothers, she could go to Uganda and bring a child or two. So I had to come back to Rwanda, and I knew about the cause of the Tutsis running away from their country. So I stayed in Rwanda with the other Tutsis being discriminated by the bad regime of Habyarimana. So that is a little bit of my background, being a refugee, one part of my life, and then coming back to the country. Well, 1991, I joined a political party, a Liberal Party, and I decided also to fight against the bad regime that were discriminating Tutsis. Aline talked about her father, whom I came to know when he was a university medical student in Butare. Though we came from the same province, I did not know him before, but I knew him when he started his university. I knew her mother because we were staying in a neighborhood village. So when they also got married with Jean-Baptiste, Dr. Jean-Baptiste Kurawige and Claudine. Claudine was her mother. I attended the wedding. After that, her mother was also killed in a planned accident. We continued to struggle, and when the RPF also invaded the country, the Tutsis were taken to the prisons massively. They called them Ibito. I think they remember. They were very young, but they remember the event of taking Tutsis massively to the prison. I was also taken to brigade. It was called brigade, but fortunately, I did not go to prison for the reasons I don't know why up to now, because I was supposed also to join other Tutsis in the prison. But someone came in brigade and said, "Come out. I want come and I tell you." Then when I went out, he told me that he belongs to the same church with my husband, that they belong to the same village, and he ordered me to go back home and sit there and wait. Anytime they will be coming for me again. You see, sitting at home, waiting for people, for the policemen, they were calling them gendarme by then, to come and pick you and take you to the prison to join other Tutsis, it was also a traumatic. It was also a traumatic moment. Then going back to Dr. Kurawije, because I want to talk about him. When the multiple parties were established in Rwanda, we decided to join the political parties because, first and foremost, we needed a platform where to express our feelings, where to talk and speak out and condemn the bad regime, what was taking place in Rwanda. Actually, it started, as I told you, when we went to exile. 1960, 1961, 1962, 1963, Tutsis were being harassed, were being tortured. Their properties were being taken and destroyed. And 1963, that's when my husband-to-be, by then he was 5 years old, he lost his parents, mother, dad, and his siblings. He was left alone with her younger sister among 7 children. So it was actually a long journey from 1959 for Tutsis to be discriminated in every area. Let it be in education, especially, or in the public services, they were discriminated. And that's why we were motivated actually to join the political parties, at least to have a platform where we can express our feelings. So when we joined, I remember we had our first rally at a small stadium in Butare, and we had to campaign and to mobilize people to join Liberal Party. Dr. Kurawije was around, he was present. So the one who was conducting that rally asked some people who are interested to be the rulers, to be elected. And some people were still maybe shy and afraid of showing their thoughts, showing where they belong, where they want to belong. And I remember Dr. Kurawije, as young as he was, he just raised his hands and stood up immediately. I remember it as it was yesterday. Then we shouted and we clapped our hands because he was so courageous to stand up and say, okay, you people, I see you are not ready for it. Me here, I'm ready. So we did not even have another candidate because everybody clapped. We clapped our hands and we stood up and we said, you are the one, you are the one, you are the one. So he was elected like that. We cheered up and clapped our hands. And then we elected the vice president. The third was a treasurer. And I remember Dr. Kurawije as the chairman who has been elected, and he said, oh, this time we need the women. We are not going to have honorary men in our committee. So because I had gone near him and they congratulated him, he told me, Harriet, why can't you join us in the team? Then I shied down and he said, no, please, join us. Then he took my hand and I stood up. And then I started campaigning for my position. And that's how I was elected. So I remember him encouraging me to join even politics at the early stage of the multiple parties in Rwanda. Dr. Kurawij also, he was a visionary man. I wish you could be alive today. He was a freedom fighter, politically, not militarily. I don't know how I can describe him, but he was a very courageous man. I remember when we started demonstrating in the streets, he could be on the front line of the demonstrations. He could confront the Interahamwe militia. He could encourage us to join him, and we could join him. So that's why I call him a freedom fighter. I remember the second rally, we had to go to the villages to look for the members to join us in the Liberal Party. The day before the rally meeting, he called me and he told me, tomorrow, Harriet, prepare yourself, you are going to speak. I told him, no. How am I going to speak? In Rwanda, women were not educated to stand up and speak in public or debate in public. I remember even my husband telling me, "Will you able really to stand up and say something?" I said, "I don't think so." But early in the morning, the doctor called me again and asked me, "Are you ready?" I said, "No, I'm not ready for it." He told me, "You have to. Don't worry, you are going to manage." So I said, "Okay, I will try." So when we reached on the site of the rally, he gave out his speech and others gave out their speech. And then he announced that there is a lady who is going now to give us a speech. And he announced my name. I stood up. I started talking, telling people, mobilizing women and other people, especially women, to come and join me in politics. And when I finished, my husband congratulated me, said, "Oh, you did it well." And doctor said, "You see, Harriet, you did it well. Continue." So ever since, I started actually developing. I was developing and I was making progress in speaking in public. During genocide, I did not know what happened actually to Kurawije because we were neighbors. By then, there is a certain time when we became neighbors, immediate neighbors actually. They were just like two homes between us and their home. And we could visit them with my daughter, Diana, who was my last born. And Diana could carry Aline. And she could just struggle to carry Aline, but then she succeeds to carry Aline. I always remember that. By the way, I continued with my story. Sorry.
It's
Is it
okay.
okay, moderator?
Yeah, it's okay. For those who are joining us, Dr. Korawije, the one that Auntie is referring to, is Aline's late father. For those who knows Aline's story, his dad her dad died during the genocide against the Tutsi in 1984. So he's the one that Auntie is reminiscing about back in the day, what it used to be like. She's telling us about the guy he was as a person and how it actually helped Auntie even to project into politics. You know, Auntie joined politics. So she's been politics for the past 20 years, Auntie?
Pardon? Yes, I've been in politics since 1991, but then I joined the parliament in 1995.
Yeah, that's why she gives back a credit back to Dr. Korawije. And
Yeah. No,
yes,
I just
so
wanted to talk about Dr. Korawije before we go into discussions. I just
it's
wanted to
okay.
take this opportunity because I've never even talked about it thoroughly with Aline. She knows the story, but there are some part of the story she didn't know. So I just wanted to talk about Kurawig and then we started the discussions,
It's
Yeah,
okay.
right?
it's I'm just holding my tears. I've been like trying to not to
Okay,
cry because it's just the beginning. So, but I
thank you.
am just amazed by the story. So yeah, I'm listening. I'm all ears.
Okay, thank you. So when the plane of the former President Habyarimana was shot down, and we learned the news from from my brother, who was next to our bedroom. It was early in the morning. We could just hear instrumental music on the radio. So everyone could wonder what happened. So because we were staying down in the south part of Rwanda, we did not know exactly what happened, but we could hear instrumental music on radio. When it gets over another instrumental radio, no one commenting anything. So, but a neighbor came and knocked on the door, and then the brother of my husband went out and they told him, "Did you know that? Did you hear that the president is dead?" So Martin, the brother of my husband, came and knocked, and I opened, and he told us the story. He gave us the information about Habyarimana being killed in the accident of his plane. And the following day, we moved from that place and we shifted to go and hide somewhere else in the town. in the office of my husband, actually, where he was working. So from there, I did not know what happened to Dr. Kurawije and Aline. Not until after genocide, when Gachacha started, that's when I started hearing about how they moved from their home and how they went to another village up there and how he was killed by the relatives. Ever since, I never actually heard, I never knew that even Aline survived until 2019, 2 years back. So Aline, I was very happy to hear that you survived that horrible genocide. And here we are. I can see you. And I'm happy for that. Well, as I told you, I joined politics. I joined parliament in 1995. And actually, that helped me a lot to heal my wounds. It was a long journey, but it happened. In the long journey of trauma, I took 15 years without knowing where my husband was buried, where they had, not buried, where they had thrown him with my brother, with my brother-in-law. I did not know where they had thrown them. And the difficult moments I had within 15 years, it was horrible. Because I could, whenever I walk around and meet like 3 men, 2 men, one could automatically turn out as if one is my husband. Just on the street, just walking like that, one could turn as if he's my husband. Then they could come and bypass. Then I could ask myself, why? Is he not really the one? Why can't he recognize me? So I went through that trauma for a long time. And I could someone who is with me that, did you see those men? Do you know them? He could tell me, or she could tell me, no, I don't know them. And I could ask, did you know my husband? He said, yes, I knew your husband. Harriet, what's wrong with you? Your husband is no longer there. And then I just, no tears, nothing, but I could just ask myself why they did not see my husband passing me. So another thing, when we started the reburying in a decent way our beloved ones, getting them from the massive graves, I could go there learning, thinking that, not expecting to find my husband there. And there, I could hear voices from him telling me that, Harriet, I'm not there. Do you know where I am? I'm not very far. I'm just like 60 meters from where we were hiding. Then I could just ask myself, is he the one talking to me? But I could hear his voice. And then it continued like that. I could visit the site where we were hiding. He could tell me the distance, but he could not tell me the whether it is south, north, east, or west of the place where we're hiding. So I could just go around within those 60 meters and asking people that, did you see whether they buried, is there any massive graves here? They could tell me no. So it was a very bad experience of trauma I had. I started healing until I got him underneath of the hotel where they had buried them. So let me stop there to allow the moderator maybe to ask questions, and we'll continue in our discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Auntie.
You.
Thank you for that
Thank you.
good flashback. For those who were lost in the jungle, Auntie was introducing to us what led to the whole genocide against the Tutsi back in 1994, where she focused about it all started with the death of the president, and a lot of things happened along the way. In her years and whatever she did, she also mentioned that the fact that for 15 years she was looking for a family, her loved ones, specifically her sweetheart, and later only for her to find out that he they do not like the way she put it, not like they actually did bury her where they threw him in a boat in a pit somewhere, and later on she found that the place was actually a hotel there, but all is well. 15 years later, she at least got a chance to give them a proper bath. Now, it's with those regards I'll go back to Aline. And Aline, I'd like to ask you a question where most of us out here who have read your book and have looked into your book can really resonate with your story. And on your story alone, it is enough. But I'm a bit curious to know, and some of the viewers would like to know that why did you see the importance of adding the panelists that are with us in this book tour? Why was it not just enough to share the story alone, but you felt the importance of adding the rest of us into the story?
Well, before I even answer that, I just wanted to thank Aunt Harriet for the. I don't even know how to explain how I feel right now. I feel so much emotions. Like I'm trying to be strong. I'm trying to have all my head together. But I just wanted to thank you for really sharing with me how my dad was strong and wanted to fight for his country, his people. Um, it's I used to wonder why am I the way I am, because people who know me, I'm somebody who never gave up. I'm somebody who's really a visionary. Uh, but now I know where I got it from. So it's also like gives me a sense of like knowing that that piece of my dad is in me and it's been growing. And so Ken, to answer your question, because I am my dad's daughter, I'm somebody who's a visionary.
Mm. Yeah, he was a visionary. He was indeed.
So because I'm Kurawiji's daughter, I am
Mhm.
somebody who see ahead of things. So before I wrote the book, in 2012, when God started healing me and walking me through the walk of healing, He told me that I would write a book. But He also told me that the book was not for me to share my story and for me to be known, but that book will be used as a tool to help people to go from bondage to freedom, and for also people to have the strength and the courage to also uh, earn their pain and be able to share their story. So we have so many. We are in a season. My country is in a season where there's so many people that are denying the fact that the genocide ever happened. Some people talk about double genocide. Some people talk about war. Some people talk about all kinds of things to try to excuse their actions. For those who perpetrated the genocide and who killed our people. So when I was writing the book, I wrote the book for two reasons. The first reason was to heal, to be able to share my story, find a sense of healing, and find a sense of knowing that I'm leaving something in honor to my family and in honor to honor also my dad's legacy. But the second part was to be able to have a story so that I can find people like Jean, like Josiane, like Aunt Harriet, and and other more speakers that will come in the weeks to come, to be able for us to come together and share our story. Because I live in America, so I live in Dallas, Texas, and in America, when you say I'm originally from Rwanda, everybody talks about the Hotel Rwanda, and to me, it's a little bit irritating because you cannot take a country, a whole history of a country, and assign it to a fiction movie. Because to me, Hotel Rwanda is a fiction because I don't relate to it. I was 5 years old. I was not hidden in a hotel. I did not have the experience of that story. So whenever somebody talks to me and bring Hotel Rwanda, it diminishes my history and the history of my country. So when I wrote the book, I had asked God. I said, God, if you give me the strength to write this book, I'm going to find other genocide survivors for us to be able to go and share our story so that people can stop uh, bringing an equivalent of Rwanda is equal to Hotel Rwanda, but also having images of people like Josiane, people like Jean, people like other people like Console, like Celine Didi. There's so many other people, so many other authors, so many other people that survived the genocide, that have a story, that lost people, that are real people, that are normal people, that have a story to share. So that's why I was like, I want to find those people, bring them into a platform so that we can share our stories, so that we can bring that change of history for people, those deniers that are saying there's no genocide, nothing has ever happened. They are lying. They are thinking, how can we lie? How can we? I mean, how can we lie like that? We lost so many people. How can they even think of that like that? Like, I mean, Aunt Harriet is saying she lost her husband, her daughter. Josiane lost 6 of her family members in one day. I lost my dad in front of my very eye. Like, how can we lie about those things? How can a whole country lie about something like that? So it angers me, but it actually gave me a passion to fight those deniers. So with all I have, I think because I'm Kurawiji's daughter, with all the guts and the vision and the determination, I'm going to
Yes.
fight that until I die. So yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for that kind words.
Thank you,
Uh,
Aline. Mm.
the next question for me, piggybacking on whatever Aline saying, the importance of sharing a story and everything like that. I want to talk to Jean. You said I could say Jean, whichever way you pronounce it. For Jean, I'm coming from a situation where you are, for you, scenario and all this thing was going down. You were actually 12, if I remember correctly. You said you were really young. And for you, you had to go to a new country where, first and foremost, your book stops on July 12th, or on July of '94.
July
So,
4th.
or July 4th of '94. So I'm really curious to know how it was for you after the fact. What really happened to Jean? Because right now we are catching up with you about 20 something years later. You really look nice and you got yourself back together. And I'm coming from a situation, I'm looking as a person who has gone through something and I'm finding myself in a new situation. How was it for you? How were you able to cope up with the new environment as a young boy? And how did it shape your life? And how did it shape how you became? And how even you said you have a son now? How did it really helping you in the raising of your son? So my question to you is very simple, as in how was it like for you as a young boy in a new country? How were you able to cope up with the new environment? How did you handle the new environment despite your past trauma?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Then, um, so I would like maybe to go a little bit before I left. I left the country, Rwanda, to come to the United States. It was right after the genocide. Things were so shocking to me, especially learning about the killing of my both parents and my siblings. So, uh, fortunately, I had one of my aunts who survived, and she was the one who took us in. Myself, my both of my younger siblings, and two of my older brothers that survived with me. Uh, During that time, things were starting to come back to normal as much as possible. Uh, School started, and really, uh, as a young boy at 12 years old, uh, I started going back into just the normal routine of going to school and get involved in sports, and didn't really think too much about uh, what really all. I did not reflect too much about the genocide and all uh, the bad things that had happened to my parents, my siblings. So because of being involved in school and sports, uh, and then there was some distraction in my mind as a young child that I didn't daily think about that. And I had moved away from my hometown, so I didn't really get involved and or going back to my hometown as often because I had just a bitter taste about my neighborhood because mostly the families of the perpetrators were the one that were staying there, and even at that time, I was even afraid that I was gonna be killed. That time, I didn't think there was not enough. Um, I guess security, you'd say, back then to be able to say that I would be safe to just walk around. Especially, I lived a little bit outside of the capital city. Um, so, anyways, it was about 4 years later that I was fortunate enough to come to the United States, where my sister lived, and she was the one. Her and her husband sponsored me to move to the United States. Uh, Getting here and starting a new life was very challenging and unexpected. When I thought about coming to US, I thought I was pretty much going to paradise. The way back then, when the way we were thinking about the United States, uh, I didn't even dream about coming there. So then when I got here is when I started to realize that things were not as I expected. First of all, I didn't understand the language. English, I was speaking for the first time, and going to school was challenging. But that somehow, guess, did help me a little bit because that kept me busy in my mind. So I didn't have much to reflect again, and I was still young at 17 at the time. Uh, I, I, I concentrated on school. As much as it was hard to learn a new language, um, but at the time I was also living with my sister, so I was, that made me comfortable. I was getting help from her. And I also, another thing that really helped me at the time was getting involved in sports again. Uh, I I was playing basketball back in Rwanda, and could not. I was not enough good enough to play basketball in the U.S. So I reverted to soccer, which I grew up playing. So I I would say I was better, a lot better than a lot of uh, students that were at the school. So there was not a whole lot of competition for me. So that really did help me uh, get acquainted with the culture, and was able to make friends and started learning English much faster. Then I graduated from high school and went to college. And that time, I moved away from my sister's home to a university about 3 hours away. There is when I started also having a challenge, because now I didn't have anybody in my family member who would I would really, I guess, relate to, speak the language Kinyarwanda with, and all that. So that was a bit tough, and I really even felt like I wanted to go back uh, to my sister's home and leave school. But I had to tough it up, because there was no way I was even going to mention that idea to my sister. I believe she was gonna just book me a ticket to go back to Rwanda, so I didn't even try that. So um, with going to college was as tough as it was. Uh, I, uh, I managed and graduated with a degree uh, in biotechnology. However, during that time, those actually 5 years that I went to college, so that was between 20 and 25. Um, During that time, I really struggled also. Is when I started reflecting to um, my family members that I lost. It was also during that time frame when I went back to Rwanda to bury my parents, my siblings who were killed during the genocide. So that process uh, of going back and I think um, everyone who's in this panel knows that the process of going to find the remains and handling them and doing all that process was is as much as it is it was needed. And unfortunately, we were able to find everybody except for one of my brothers. Um, Coming back after the process of burying uh, my loved ones, I started reflecting more, and that was really very very um, because you started thinking about the way they talked about how they were killed, the stories were being told by our neighbors who knew whom killed them and how they were killed. Uh, that was uh, it was something that was really difficult to deal with, um, and really um, made me even start having some issues sleeping, and I would wake up in the middle of the night, and at the time though, really, it is hard to explain. Uh, you're not constantly thinking about that, because you're living your normal life, going to school, doing other activities, and you don't know when it comes to you. You'll be sleeping, and all of a sudden, you wake up and my heart is racing. I'm sweating. At the time, I didn't even realize that it was actually related to some of the things that I was thinking about, um, related to my family members who were being killed. It was later actually that I was talking to another genocide survivor who described the same symptoms I was having, and actually telling me that he had been diagnosed with a post-traumatic um, syndrome. So because of that, uh, for me, I kind of dealt with it in a sense of just trying to keep myself busy and just going on my in my life, and just trying to concentrate on school and trying to graduate. Uh, but I had to go get myself checked uh, with cardiologist, because I was from time to time I was just having those panic attacks, which they were strong enough to where I had to different occasions I had to call an ambulance. But when I went to get checked, nothing would come back as concerning. So I kind of just learned to live with that situation, and what is I could say surprising is that whenever that situation happened, then I call an ambulance. This is 911. By the time the ambulance got there, I was just normal. So, and it was hard to understand, because it is, I guess, the comfort knowing that somebody's coming to check on you, especially at the time. During those times that happened, I was living alone at school, in an apartment at school. So, and these are the things that I actually kept from my family members. So nobody really ever knew about this for a very long time. Uh, So I just learned to live with it, and so managed to graduate from high school, from college, and started the real life working in the industry. Um, so during the time when I was working, is when I started thinking about writing my story. Uh, this is about 2016 is when I actually started writing my story. Although I didn't start, I had started thinking about writing way before then, but I just didn't have opportunity or the means to be able to do that. But this, it was always uh, a wish for me, because I was realizing that there's so much um, that I have to leave behind. Uh, that, if I'm fortunate enough to have children, I want them to know exactly what happened to his parents, and aunts and uncles. So also, like Aline mentioned, um, thing about denying genocide and saying all different things about the genocide didn't happen. There was a war. It was a double genocide. Those are the things that were upsetting as a genocide survivor. That it gave me even more courage to write, and the way I started writing also it was really not planned, but it kind of just was an accident that I met someone that I shared the desire to write. And this is actually my co-author who's with me in the book. Uh, so it is the time when uh, uh, his name is Max Russell. He's an American, citizen. So he's the one who actually really pushed me and encouraged me to take the step in starting writing. And this was not even a book, was not even talked about at the time. And I didn't even know about like about writing a book, but I had the desire to just put my story down. So from that time, I started and uh, uh, getting interviewed by him, doing some recording, and pretty much we finished the entire story on audio. Then we started transcribing the story, and then we went from there until the book was done. So that was part of writing a book was somewhat like a really process because I felt satisfied or proud of being able to really share my story to the world, to the public, and really give our loved ones a sort of respect also, but also let people know that the genocide that happened. If you get a chance to read the story, my story in the book, you'll find different um, uh, scenarios or different experiences that are there that really shows that uh, this wasn't a war. It was not a war. Not even it is not even like a close. For some to describe it as a war. So this really has been kind of helping me in like the healing process, and also it is an ongoing journey because it's not just writing a book. It comes with also um, going out and sharing the story that's in the book, and also motivating people to read the story. So this kind of like really keeps me busy and keeps me challenged, and really it keeps me away from thinking about the negative, thinking about uh, uh, more of like how my parents, my siblings died, but more how can I make them proud? How can I give them respect that they deserve, that the killer did not give them. So that's what was very very when Aline talked to me about joining her on this book too, because it is also I know that it's something that uh, you need somebody to coach you, and you need somebody a fellow survivor who has the same type of goals to speak the word about the truth. And I just wanna say thank you, Aline, for your courage and your determination.
Okay, thank you, Jean, for that. I believe Aline had. Thank you for the time and the opportunity. Ma,
Yeah,
for my next person, I'll go to I'll talk to Josiane.
Mhm.
Mama, you had mentioned earlier that you talked about two wounds. You said the first one was when your neighbor betrayed you. Then when the second one came at a later stage in your marriage, despite being married young and everything like that. All I want to know is that I'm looking at somebody who is going through heartbreak. I'm really curious to know how you handled your trauma. There's something Gina has talked about PTSD and how this kind of trauma really affects you. So I'm wondering from your side, Josiane, how are you able to mitigate that? How are you able to handle the heartbreak and how did you able to heal yourself? And what is it that you can advise somebody who's going through heartbreak? You mentioned it to yourself in the introduction. You went twice. You did it twice. One was with a neighbor, then second with somebody you are supposed to spend the rest of your life with. So in such a situation, how will you advise, let's say, a kid somewhere who's looking at you right now and wondering, how did she even do that?
Yeah, it happens. We are here on earth. It has happened. It's still happening. It will happen. So how to handle it? I will maybe elaborate more on how I have been betrayed or I have been confused. As I was saying in my story, I said how my family had a very good relationship with neighboring Hutus families. So it means in the African context, you call everyone aunties, mom, uncle, even if it doesn't need necessarily to be related. At least in Rwanda is like that. It means those people who weeks before were my uncles, aunties, godmother, godri, to my siblings maybe. One day suddenly they come today, yesterday we came to pray in your house. Today you are our enemies. So for me I was shocked. I was shocked that human being can be huge inside himself. And after genocide, I was very confused. I said, how is it possible? Those people, we were laughing the previous day, the next day, I'm killing you. You are becoming an enemy today. So I was confused with that. That was my first betrayal. And second, no, and then I got married. I said, you know what? Now those people can be bad, but now Remy found the refuge. I was young though. I was hoping that I can have a refuge or hide in a human being. But God showed me that I was wrong. That I was wrong. A human being can't be a refuge. You can't. Human being can't give you peace. So that is the moral of my whole betrayal. The moral of my whole betrayal is that you can't get peace in a human being. You can't get peace. You can't. Your refuge has to be only in God. So how I healed, I discover. By the way, can I read one of my favorite verse, Matthew?
Please read. Please read.
Yes, Matthew 11:28. Come to me, all, 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 all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you the rest. So I will tell that person to run to God, to run to Jesus is how I got my refuge, to run to God, where Jesus has finished everything on the cross. Why you have to still have that burden? Just give him, left your burden to Jesus. He's the one who can carry your burden. Again, there is next generation. We have to raise that next generation as strong. And after lifting my burden to Jesus is where I got now to know my purpose of life. That my purpose is to minister the forgiveness. By the way, another small story to be found in my book is when I started write a book, I met a very long friend from high school. She told me the dream she had. When I started writing a book, I know is to preach about the forgiveness. Now, how God confirmed that information was very amazing. I was amazed with the grace of God. I met that old friend for me. She told me, by the way, when we were in high school, I had a dream. She told me her dream, how she was running, and then some people, and then like water wanted to invade her, and then other people came to rescue her. And then I came in her dream. I came to with those people who was rescuing her. And then the voice told her, remember, always Josiane asks you to forgive Hutus. You should start, from today, you should start forgiving them. I didn't know that even before I got saved, even before genocide, I was feeling that passion of forgiving. I remember in high school, I was, the Tutsis kids were aside, another Hutus were forming another group. And in high school, I was telling my friend, you know what? You have to overcome that. We have to overcome that. We will not get far. We have to forgive those Tutsis, those Hutus. Now, my Tutsis friend were telling me, yo, why you are talking about? They did bad. But, I started very early in my young age to preach that gospel, if I can say it, or to minister the forgiveness. When I started writing a book about forgiveness, is where that old friend told me that story. That from that day of her dream is where she started forgiving the Hutus. And then God said, and then I said, thank you, God, that is a confirmation, that is a mission on earth. That I have to preach the forgiveness. I have to help people who are still having that burden. That burden is not ours, by the way. Jesus asked us to just one thing, to give that burden to him. He finished it. He finished everything on the cross. Again, there is a saying that when life gives you a lemon, just make it a lemonade. The life has to continue.
Thank you very much, Josiane, for that. There's something Josiane has talked about forgiveness, and it is this one, Auntie Harriet, our honorable member. There are a few things when I was talking to you earlier you had mentioned. The first one is gachacha. I really want to know if you could explain to us what gachacha was, what was the idea behind gachacha, how did you guys come about the gachacha perspective, and since you were a member of parliament during the whole implementation of gachacha, how did you guys arrive to that situation? Okay, Auntie, the floor is yours. Oh, Auntie, you forgot to unmute your mic. You're really giving a lot of wisdom, but the mic is mute.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. Technology
Thank you,
came.
Josiane, for
Yes.
Thank you, Josiane, for your testimony. By the way, I've changed the device because my computer was going down.
It's okay.
I don't know what happened. So I'm using a tablet now. That's why I can see that.
We still hear you loud and clear.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So first and foremost, gachacha was a traditional conflict resolution system for neighborhood disputes. It was being used by our ancestors, and when the kingdom was abolished and they installed the system, modern system of European, the high courts and the courts. So they left alone the gachacha system, our traditional conflict resolution. After genocide, the government and other stakeholders, like multiple parties, other partners, they were forced to sit together and find a homegrown solution. So the Gachacha Court was mentioned as a homegrown solution. First and foremost, Gacaca would bring together the victims and the perpetrators. Remember, it was a traditional court that could bring together the neighborhood that had disputes. So this time it was genocide. It was a crime, and it was very heavy. But then, according to the perpetrators of genocide, according to the numbers of Tutsis who were killed, according to how it happened, some of the perpetrators, actually, most of them had run out from the country. They had gone out. They were staying in Congo. And few ones who stayed in the country, they were just still moving around. So there were a lot of suspicions in Rwandans. So Gacaca, when it was established in 2000, when it was established in 2001, that's when it started. It started by gathering the information, writing down, going down to the grassroots, to the cell sector level, cell and sector level, to have information about the families who were perished or the families of Tutsis who were killed. So from the neighbors, we could get information from the neighbors. We could ask, so it seems here, it is no longer home. It used to be a home of someone. Who was this? Who is this? Is it the home of someone who ran away from the country? Is it a home of someone who was killed during genocide? So they could give the information whether the home belongs to a certain who ran away or someone who was killed during genocide. So Gacaca helped a lot to bring up information about the numbers of the Tutsis who were killed in genocide, even their names. Because a neighbor could tell you that at Sebera's home, at Kurawige's home, there were 5 or 6 members of the family. They could even at least remember their names. The names for the one who were elder, but for the names for the babies were sometimes not known. They could say they were 5, this and this, Harriet, Martin, Bosco, and the baby. So we could just write down a baby. So Gacaca, actually, you asked what was behind Gacaca. Gacaca court, it was actually for speeding the trials process. And it was there for bringing the truth about genocide into open, and bringing also reconciliation between Rwandans. Finally, it was for punishing the perpetrators of genocide.
Okay.
So during Gacaca, that's when we had a lot of information about where our people, our beloved ones, were buried. And actually, we were eager to know, since you were hiding and you were running you are running for your own life. You could not know what happened, how your father was killed, how your sister was killed, who killed my brother, who killed my mother, who killed my siblings. So for the victims, they were eager, they wanted to know what happened to their beloved ones, how they were killed, and who killed them. So Gachacha brought up all those information, and some of the victims actually took the opportunity. I mean, some of the perpetrators, the few ones, took the opportunity to ask forgiveness. And it was very hard, since the wounds were still very fresh, for the victims to just to give away the forgiveness to the perpetrators. And few of the victims managed also to forgive. As Josiane mentioned, the Christian people who could read Bible, I remember we've got a prayer saying that, "Oh Lord Jesus Christ, you may forgive me as I forgive as I forgive the ones who did bad for me, or the one who wronged me." So as you pray and you say, "Jesus Christ, forgive me as I forgive," you could hear a trigger in your heart or something telling you, no, you did not forgive. And in that bitterness and anger we were carrying as a burden, I heard Jean mentioning about having a lot of the pain, the headaches. Actually, the trauma goes with the headaches, goes with no. When you go to sleep, you don't sleep thoroughly. You just wake up during the night. So the trauma brings a lot of illness, a lot of disease. So in the process, when Gachacha started and forgiveness, in general, victims made a choice. We made a choice. We made a choice because we had first to forgive on our own good, to start a healing process. We had to forgive because of our country. Our country needed to progress in a bigger development. And thirdly, we needed to forgive also to ease the shame of perpetrators, to calm them down so that we bring them together and we sit and we talk so that they can feel comfortable to tell us what happened. So that was all about the Gachacha and the reconciliation, as I mentioned it. So I don't know whether you still have got questions, but let me remind you, I told you that within 15 years, I was in a long journey, traumatic long journey, when I was traumatized by hearing the voices of my husband telling me, or meeting him in the street while it was not true. It was because I had not even buried him. It was because nobody had ever told me about how he was killed. But during Gachacha procedures, a prisoner heard about me asking the news in Gachacha. By then, that prisoner had not yet come to the Gachacha court. But when prisoners goes back to the prison, they start talking about what took place during the Gachacha court. So one of the prisoners heard about me asking the whereabouts of my husband's remaining. So he himself, he wrote a cheat to the chairperson of the Gachacha, and the chairperson of Gachacha called me on telephone, and he asked me whether I will be available to the next sitting of Gachacha. And he told me it's very urgent. We've got news that there might be someone who knows where your husband was buried. So the following sitting of Gachacha, I went there, and the prisoner was brought in front of me, and he confessed that by the time we were hiding in that location I've told you where my husband was working, in the office of my husband, he was a houseboy somewhere in the neighborhood. He was a houseboy. So when they had finished killing my husband, my brother and his brother also, they were told to come and clean the city, clean the town. So when the dead bodies were full of the town, of the streets, they could call it cleaning. They could bring people or other prisoners to come and clean They bring people. So they called those boys that you come and clean. So he was among the boys or the men who came and took the dead bodies of my beloved ones. So he confessed that he did not. He's the one who killed them, but he knows where they were buried. So when he took us to the site, we were very much surprised to find that the site was a building. It was a long process to get them out from the underneath the hotel. But and other Gachachas also in the whole country, people could get the information about their beloved ones. And by the way, we still have other genocide survivors who haven't seen or who haven't buried their beloved ones in a dignified way, in a decent way, because some people never wanted to talk about their whereabouts, or maybe the killers are still outside the country. We don't know why some people are not talking. Maybe the killers are still outside the country, or some people just doesn't want to talk. As we talk now, last year, we've got examples where the family have conflict, internal conflict, and one of the sibling or a child, when there is a conflict, when a child is just asking for something that they don't give him or her whatever he needs, he starts shouting that, oh, then I'll go and report you that there are some people here in this house, or we've got dead bodies in our toilets, or whatever. So you've been watching that last year we found a mass grave just in the front of the house of someone. So when there are some conflict between those people, the killers, sometimes one comes up and says, you see, I'm going to report you. And how some news comes up, and we go and dig up the mass graves, and we buried them in a decent way. So Gachacha actually, that was the reason why for Gachacha, and it helped us for speeding up the trials. You've heard about the ICTR. Within 10 years or more than 10 years, they just convicted. How many cases? Not even 10. But for Gachacha, oh, so many cases were resolved. More than 2 million cases. So the Gachacha court was very effective for us. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that about Gachacha and showing us about Gachacha. The one thing I'm really curious to know is that you talked about it's because of Gachacha at least you as a person were able to see and even know where your husband has been buried so that at least you can give him a proper death. It took you I think about 15 years as you mentioned and you were able to find him I think from a foundation of our church. Some of these things are really hard to imagine. And I'm thinking to myself, as a person, has you as a person, how are you able to look at this from a forgiveness perspective? I know Josiane earlier had said most people found with all of you guys when we're all talking about, I've noticed you guys found a lot of conciliatory religion and Josiane earlier had said, even gave us a quote from the Bible that was talking about forgiving and leaving it all to the Lord. But I'm really curious to know, as Auntie Harriet, how did you get around to forgiving the guys who actually did that? Because I remember you said during the Kachacha, somebody told you, I was not part of the people who actually killed your husband, but I was a young boy who was in charge of cleaning the town, as you put it, and I was the one who buried him at the stage. So for most of my guests here, I think Josiane is in Kenya, Aline and Aline and Jean are all the way in America. So I believe you are the one who was left behind in Rwanda in this panel. I'm really curious to learn how is it that you were able to deal with forgiveness as a person? Because you see, most of us are really struggling. Some of us, even something really small, we are having a hard time forgiving somebody. And it's not even something serious. It's probably they just stole like a small biro from you, a biro pen, and you have never forgiven since kindergarten. But this is somebody who actually alienated. You said your brothers and your brother-in-laws, almost 45 members of your family, extended family, were killed, including us, a husband, and you had the most painful thing. I don't think any parent should be able to be given opportunity to bury their child. I believe the society is supposed to be in a situation where we children bury parents, and you are given that trauma as a parent. So I'm really curious to learn how are you able to forgive? And if I'm facing a forgiveness challenge, what is it that really was unique to you that really helped you throughout the process? In addition to Gachacha, as you Gachacha side, you as a person, how were you able to forgive somebody?
This is a very difficult question, Mr. Moderator.
Sorry.
But I was also a born again Christian. But after genocide, post-genocide, that was not mattering at all because of the anger and bitterness I had in me. And I had also had a feeling or sense that Tutsis were abandoned by God or by Jesus. So in that anger and bitterness and the spirit of revenge, in me, I couldn't have time to think of Jesus, of the Word of God. My spiritual side it declined. You see? It declined. So I couldn't even go for the East. We call it park. because when we were being killed, it was during Easter time.
Oh,
you see?
Yeah.
Yes, it was in April,
Wow.
Easter time. We did not go to the church, so they were killing us. We were being betrayed by our neighbors, by the people we called our friends, the people who shared everything at home, the people we shared even the church, where to the extent we could be the godmother or the godfather of their children, of our children. They could be the godfather. There were intermarriages in Rwanda between Tutsi and Hutu. But all of a sudden, one group stood up to exterminate another group. So it was so difficult for the genocide survivors actually to forgive. But then here we had the good leadership, which had another side of vision and ruling all Rwandese and bringing all Rwandese together. And victims were convinced that we have to pay a price, or we have to be to sacrifice, to have sacrifices, to sacrifice ourselves to forgive. But the forgiveness was first for myself, as I mentioned earlier. Without forgiveness, I learned that when I forgive, I will not keep the burden on my shoulder. I will not give the chance for the perpetrators to control me. In fact, when you don't forgive, you give opportunity to your enemies to control you. Because every time where you are, you think about them, you are angry, so they keep on controlling your mind. So to me, I thought it was a failure to give them opportunity to control my mind. So I never wanted them to continue controlling my mind. Step one, I have to forgive them because of my own good. And secondly, the good governance we had, the goodwill of our leadership begged all Rwandese to come down and sit together and bring up the truth. So sometimes the truth also heals. So when we started hearing about the truth, and I had started the journey of forgiving even myself, to the extent where we forgive the people who did never even want to ask forgiveness. Even if we went to Gachacha, some of the perpetrators, some of the killers could stand up and continue denying that they did not kill. The witness could come and tell them how they killed, how it happened. The perpetrators, some of them could continue denying. So the Gachacha court could just sentence according to the witnesses according to the information they got. So I started asking myself, if I don't forget these people in general, because nobody came to me and asked for the forgiveness. Nobody came to me. Up to date, nobody came to me. No one came to me. But then in general, since I had also joined the parliament, I had an obligation. To go in front of population, in front of Rwandese, to talk to them, then and to read a good example. Joining the parliament actually helped me a lot. It was a journey also to heal. I remember the following day when I joined I entered in the hall of the parliament. By the way, let me tell Aline that the parliament has got two chambers. They usually call it two chambers in English, but they call it upper and lower chamber. So upper chamber is called Senate, but we don't address it as a lower chamber. We call it Senate. And the one which is supposed to be in English, I think in some of the country they call it lower and the upper, but here in Rwanda we don't talk about lower and upper. We call them Chamber of Deputies. We got the word deputy from French, and then we translated it in English. We call it a Chamber of Deputies. So I was in a Chamber of Deputies, not Senate. So when I entered in the plenary hall for the first time, that was 1995. The wounds were still very fresh, and the anger and the bitterness. Thinking that RPF has taken the lead to lead the country, I couldn't imagine, I couldn't think of finding the faces of Hutus in the parliament. Since they have fought and on themselves, and the international community was there, did not help the Tutsi, did not, they simply helped the perpetrators to flee the country, to run away. So I couldn't imagine the RPF in Inkotanyi to bring Hutus in the parliament or in the government. That was my own thinking anyway. So when I entered in the parliament, I saw some faces that I knew. I said, oh my goodness, what have I come to do in this place here? Sitting with such and such and such in the parliament? So it was a very bad experience. And I remember for the few months, 1 to 3 months to 2 up to 3 months, I could not even greet someone whom I don't want to greet. And some of them had come from Congo, they came back just to join the parliament according to the Arusha Peace Accord. Do you remember? Arusha Peace Accord were giving all parties in Rwanda 13 places. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Yes. So all political parties had 13 seats in the parliament. So by then we had MDR, we had PSD, we had PL, Liberal Party, and the other small parties. all those, they had a mix of Hutus and Tutsis in their political parties. So then when I started the process of healing and thinking of how I'm going to lead a good example, I started cooling down and say, am I able to run out from this parliament? No, I'm not able. Then how am I going to continue? That's when I started actually coming and say, hello, just only hi, hello, hello, hello. No other words. But then when we started this gachacha procedures, and I remember also for the survivors, we looked at it as if it is just for giving the killers, the perpetrators. I was among the people who was opposing it, actually. But slowly, when we debated, and instead of thinking myself to be a selfish leader, I had to grow to look globally and to the interest of our country, to the interest of Rwandese. So we debated. Finally, the bill was passed, and I started also championing for it. So gradually, I started healing as a Christian, and for my own good, for my country, and for the perpetrators also, to ease them, to give them opportunity to come up and talk, to give them opportunity to get out of their fears and shame, because they had a lot of shame and fear. They could not even look in our eyes straightforward. So we were just to allow them to come near us, and so we paid the price, we sacrificed, but then it ended up our country progressing and bringing reconciliation in Rwanda. Is moderator still there?
I'm still here. I'm still
I'm
here.
done.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, actually, that's a really elaborate. I like the fact that you said actually for you to actually get to the forgiveness part, you had actually to forgive him and the guy who didn't even ask for forgiveness. I think that's why you're a bit stronger than most of us. I think I'm in the category of guys you have to just come with for me to ask for forgiveness before we move on. But that thing got me thinking, Aline,
Yeah.
in your book, a part of your story, you said you came to Uganda, then after Uganda, you relocated to Burkina Faso for a while. And while in Burkina Faso, you were unfortunate to ha- to be abused by somebody you really thought was supposed to protect you. Now, I'm coming from a situation of first and foremost, how actually did you even handle that whole thing with everything? Because I believe you're coming from a situation you just got your dad killed in front of your eyes. Fast forward some few years later, somebody who's now supposed to be a daddy figure to you, supposed to protect you as a parent, as a father, they take advantage of you. There's somebody somewhere, may it be a boy, may it be a girl, who's been abused or who has gone through abuse by somebody they were supposed to protect them. What can be your words of encouragement? And basically, what can be your words of encouragement to that person? Because I really don't know how to phrase this question, really. I'm just, I,
Um.
I need
Wow.
your help.
It's okay. I understand the question, and I will answer it. But before I even do that, I just want to thank Anne for, wow. I'm just like lost for words about like her experience in 1995, how she had to manage the bridge of her healing versus her leadership in the parliament, being able to lead with the wounds and all. Like, I was listening to you, Aunt, and I was like, I was trying to put myself in your shoes, and I was like, will I be able to lead and sit next to people without the healing? Because it took me also some time for me to be able to walk that walk. So I'm just like, I was listening to you and I was like, oh my goodness, this is, I mean, you started in 1995, like it was still some bodies were not even found. They were still like like, yeah, it was, I can't imagine what you've been through. So um I don't even know if it's not the grace of God. I don't know how you would have been like a person, a normal person, a breathing person. It's only God. It's only God. Yeah. So thank you for sharing. So, Ken, to answer your question, um, actually, before I answer that question, I want to mention a little bit about gachacha, because gachacha for me, I was not in Rwanda. But gachacha allowed me to know how my father was killed, because uh, two of the people that killed my dad were they were tried into gachacha, and that's when they explained how they came to kill us, and how many they were, and what they did to my dad, and all these things. So I got to find out what happened to my dad through gachacha. So gachacha for me, I thank God for that initiative, because without that initiative I wouldn't have known how my dad was killed. So that I want to also thank Aunt Harriet, because I know that she was part of the people that installed that program. So having said that, during gachacha, I think during the gachacha trials, I think I was 8 years old. But I found out about the truth about my dad's killing when I was 9. And I found out that one of the people that killed my dad was my uncle, and I was living with him for 3 years, from the age of 5 to the age of 8. And he was somebody I looked up to, he was somebody I trusted. So you can imagine the shock, the betrayal, the anger, the question mark. As if that's not enough, then I am raised by another relative that ended up sexually abusing me for 3 years. So going through all of that trauma, from losing my dad, losing my mom, surviving the genocide, finding out that I lived with one of the killer of my dad, being sexually abused for 3 years by my uncle. To summarize, I've been through pain and trauma, if I have to summarize it all in one word. So if I have to give if I have to encourage somebody, because I always tell people wherever I go, whatever you magnify grows. Whatever you feed grows. If you feed your pain grows. If you feed your healing, you heal more. So first of all, what I would tell any survivor, it doesn't matter if you survived the genocide, if you survived divorce, rejection, abandonment, betrayal, every kind of thing. If you've survived anything in this world, the main thing that you have to understand is, if you are still breathing at this moment, if you are watching this, there is a purpose in your life. God has a purpose for your life. The fact that you are still breathing, and the fact that you are not dead, the fact that you are not, you are still alive, even though you don't feel yourself, even if you hate yourself so badly, there's still a purpose for your life. And my goal and my purpose, there's something so powerful. Josiane said, she was talking about finding her purpose. She found her calling through her pain. She found her calling, like being able to use your pain as a tool. Like taking those lemon and make a lemonade, instead of taking those lemon and feel like they're so bitter and you don't want to do anything with it, but taking those lemon and turning into something beautiful. But you can't do that without God. You can't do that without the grace of God. You can't do that without the presence of God, and you can't do that without the power of God. And that is why we in this panel, you may hear a lot of God, because, to be honest, the amount of trauma that we've been through, if we don't have a higher power, a higher grace, and a higher help, we can't survive. Like, honesty, I can't tell you that I was strong. I can't tell you that I was too intelligent. I can't tell you that it's because I read books or what. It's the grace of God that helped me forgive. It's the grace of God that helped me to go to the prison and forgive the person who ordered my father's death. It's the grace of God that helped me forgive the person who abused me for 3 years. It's the grace of God. Like, I can't tell you that I read 10 steps to healing, 12 steps to whatever. I had to surrender. I had to go to God with my pain and my burden and just tell him, Papa, I'm broken. I miss my dad. I wish my dad was here. I wish my dad was with me. I wish my mom was with me. I miss them, but I'm a mess. I don't know what to do. I feel angry at I was honest. And one of the first thing to do is, yeah, you don't have to have it all. You just have to just pour your heart to God. He's the only person who can truly take your ashes and turn it into beauty. He's the only person who can turn your pain into a purpose. He's the only person who can turn your mess into a message. Like, nobody else can do it. I won't lie to you. No man can do it. No drug can do it. No alcohol can do it. Nothing in this world can do it. Only Jesus can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that perspective.
Thank you.
That's really a bit honest. The funny thing, it's not. I'm not saying funny in perspective of ha, but the interesting part is that with all of you guys, the one thing is really clear: religion was a really good backbone to you guys surviving. And Jane, I have to ask you something. And earlier, when you are giving part of your story, you said you used to have panic attacks. You used to wake up in the middle of the night sweating before you met another person who had gone through the same genocide. For you to actually now learn that it's about PTSD that you actually were having as a young man. Uh, I'm curious to know, do you still have the panic attack to date? And if you do not have them, how do you cope with triggers? Because I believe most of the things that you are going through, they had to be something that really triggered you to actually get to that situation in your life. And a part of me has to wonder, how do you normally handle triggers? For example, when you're that in the middle of the night where you said you had even at one point you had to go looking for a cardiologist to check if your heart is actually fine. I'm really curious to know, how do you handle such a thing? And for example, if personally I'm facing with panic attacks, what are the way Aline has put it, the small two steps? It might not have been the perfect steps, but probably the 1, 2, 3 steps that really actually help you. Maybe something like breathe in, breathe out kind of situation, scream into a pillow kind of situation. What normally works out for you that really helps you out with your panic attacks when you're having that PTSD moment in your life?
So to also tell you, this is not only during the night or when I'm sleeping that happens. Currently, that still happens from time to time.
Okay.
And again, you don't know when it's happening, but when it comes, it's a lot of times. I'm gonna say most of the times, all the time. Whenever that happens, I'm alone. There's no one single time that ever happened when I'm with someone, when I'm talking to someone, I'm working with someone. always happens when I'm by myself. So then I started thinking, okay, this is not happening only if I'm sleeping, but also when I'm awake. What is going on right around that time? I'm just living, doing the regular, activities. Nothing really, tells me it is caused by this. But
Okay.
how do I, when that happens, what do I do? Do I come?
How do you pivot? How do you pivot to sanity? How do you get yourself back to the situation of sanity when it has actually happened to you? How do you pivot back to? Because you say it normally happens when you're alone. So I'm trying to figure out how do you get back to Jean Kabago back to restore? How do you restore to factory setting? Guys in IT normally call it restore to factory setting. How do you normally restore yourself to factory setting during or after an episode?
So a lot of times I walk out, get a fresh air.
Uh-huh.
Depending on, like in the past when I had like a house, I had like a fan. I would just turn on the fan and just not even go outside. I mean, depends on if it's in the winter time, like we live in Indiana or Michigan. I used to live. There's no way I'm gonna go outside, in a minus degree weather. So I just try to get it like a fresh air. If it happened during the night, it just woke me up. Turn on the TV, watch whatever I feel like watching. Just kind of like, again, this is kind of like occupying myself and like have like get something like, whether it's a pleasure or like getting yourself distracted. Something that has helped me. Also, one thing that like Aline said, the thing of like going to bed, praying before you go to bed, something that I always try to remember to do, because that at least gives me a peace of mind that whatever happens, if I wake up, I from sleep because of that, it'll be fine. It'll be okay. And to this day, it's fine. However, there are times where getting fresh air or like, turn on TV, I don't even get to that point because it's so strong that I could literally feel like I'm gonna pass out. So what I do, I call 911. I'm not kidding you.
Okay.
And so 911 gets you to the emergency line where they'll just get you like a paramedic. Will come and check on you. Like I said, the funny thing is, as soon as this is like a 2 minute kind of situation. As soon as I do that, then I start walking outside to go meet the paramedic. By the time I'm by the door, I'm back to normal. So they come and check on me. They look at my blood pressure. And then I remember one incident. One time, the person that was checking me said, "What is? I don't see anything wrong with you. You have a better heart rate than mine." So then they always ask me to go to the hospital, get checked. Never one time I go to the hospital. So I just go back and go to sleep. And I go to sleep and I woke up and it only happens, whenever that happens, only happens once in the night. Or during the day, that's it. So it is a funny situation and scary also at the same time. Nothing really you can do about it. Also, one thing I want to mention is that some occasions I get nightmares or Kira. And this is in different areas, but a lot of times in my hometown.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that wakes me out of my sleep.
Okay.
And that is not always, that does not always give me panic attack, but it gets me out of my sleep.
Okay.
Again, so these are the things that I have learned to live with. And I don't know if it's medication for it. I think the medication for it is really just kind of know yourself,
Okay.
you know, what you need to do to get out of that, you know, that scary situation, and then just keep on living your normal life.
Okay. Thank you for that. Josiane, Josiane, are you still with me or you left? You left the group. Unmute, Mama.
Oh,
You
I
need to
am
unmute.
sorry. Yes.
Thank you for that. Somebody just asked me to ask you something. They're telling me to ask you about. You mentioned you're a mother of three, and you are like single. Woo-hoo, the single ladies and everything. Uh, how is it raising with whatever you've gone through as a person? As in, literally anybody in this panel. I'm really actually after Josiane, I think the same question Jean will ask because you'll answer because you told me also you are a father, and
Yes.
also the same question will go to Auntie Harriet because you also a mother. And I'm
Single.
really curious, single as well. I'm really curious to learn with the trauma you guys have faced as a people. How do you guys raise your kids in this society? You've seen the worst that humanity can really offer. Because I believe most of you, the guys who have actually killed it, for Aline, I think Aline's parent, surviving parent, was killed by a relative. Somebody was supposed to be close to them. For Josiane, it was your immediate neighbors who actually sheltered you. This was a really good thing. For Jean, the same thing. But for you, you actually were attacked with even your neighbor. The same goes to Auntie. So I'm really curious. Josiane will be the first one to answer, then I'll go to Jean, then I'll finish with Auntie. I'm really curious to know, as a parent, I'm looking for this person is really trying to be very curious to know how do you raise your child in a society that you've seen the worst in the society. How, you said for Justine, you said your mom had to go to a position where she actually had to pay a army guy so that they can actually shoot you rather they can shoot the family
Pay
rather than
them.
actually
Write
slash
them.
bribe them that actually thank you is even worse. As in they actually bribe them so that they can use
Be killed
bullets
by a bullet.
so that they can use bullets than actually
Mhm.
chopping you guys with machetes. Lucky for you and your sister, you managed to run away. They were too busy. I can't believe I'm about to say this. They were too
Yeah,
busy
I
killing
thank
somebody
God.
else.
Even
They were
my family.
killing. They were busy killing somebody else so that you guys actually got the chance to run away. And fast forward 20 years down the line, you have a kid.
I know.
How do you even let your kid walk outside? How do you let them go out and play? As in, as a parent, how do you handle that one? As in, that's the best way I can actually come up with this position.
Yeah,
Jesus, as in, how do you handle it? I'm really curious.
I know. So first of all, let me thank Aline. You know, always you think your testimony or what you are passing through is beyond the measurement until you get to know someone who,
Mhm.
or to hear to
Mm,
know someone who
preach,
Yeah.
is passing someone else something beyond
preach.
it
Yes.
means
Mm.
it's encouraging to see the God's work. Huh? If God has healed Aline, who's passing or who passed that, he healed Jean, Harriet, me. Is encouraging to someone else to hear. Is the reason why, in fact, we have to share our testimonies, because it's encouraging. Even now, I'm so encouraged with Aline testimonies, how she goes back to talk to those people who abused them, the killers who are parents who raised them, pretending that time they didn't know maybe anything. So I'm so encouraged. Yeah, God is good.
All the time.
So,
All the time.
Yeah. So raising children is nowadays is not easy. By the way, is not easy. Let me tell you. Compared to my childhood, compared to how we used to be outside, we used to play outside. We didn't have gadgets to distract us. We had to share nothing, but still be happy. So nowadays, the kids are so much demanding. The kids are so much, especially in my case, my kids, maybe they compare them with themselves, with other kids who are with their both parents. But I always ask God his wisdom. It's only the wisdom coming from God. As one person, you can just be crazy, but only God. When I face any challenge, when I always go back to the Creator. By the way, those kids, they are not mine. I'm just a steward. They belong to God. I'm just a steward here on earth. I just go to where they belong. The one who give them to me. I ask, tell me the next step. In that kind of situation, what should I do? Now they have especially the young one for 6 years old. He has many questions. He's wondering, why me? Why God is not here? Why, so many questions. But me, what I do, I go back where they belong. They are not mine there. I am just a steward. I go back and then I say, God, now I need you. I need your wisdom. So when you involve God in every step, nothing become hard. And then you train them that we are on bad situations will always happen, has happened, is happening, will even happen. But take to the road in prayer. So I will come back to my secret is God. Is only God who helped me to raise those younger children. I have two teenagers, a young ones. Is the different stages of life, but always I take them to the Creator, take to the road in prayer, and then I always got a solution.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Jean, the same question. You told me you have a 5-year-old, a boy, let
Yes,
alone.
yes.
With all this do not shoot crap going all over the world, then being a survivor of genocide against the Tutsi back in 84 has a, and sorry to throw the rest card inside. You are a father of a black boy. You've seen the worst humanity can offer, both for the black people and even from a neighbor perspective. How how do you do, to quote Josiane's terminology, has this stewardship? How do you steward this young one? How do you let them go out and play? Basically, me, I'm really curious. How do you let them go out
Correct.
and play?
Yes, yes. So before I go into the answer, I just want to also mention that my son, the mother of my son, and I have divorced. We were married for 4 years, and unfortunately, we came to a divorce. So, which means that because he was young, and he was actually here and chose to return back home. So we don't. I don't live with my son for most of the time, but they try to come back 6 to 12 months whenever possible. So
Mm-hmm.
um, now this is kind of I have to worry about him when he's in Rwanda, but I also have to worry about him when he's here. So, like Josiane said, one, uh, he revert to God. Because if we don't revert to God, you're gonna be worried every single, like, especially in a situation like me, where my son is now with me um, every day. Uh, it's every morning that I pray, say this: God, protect my child, but also protect my her mother, his mother, uh, and just saying simply that prayer, I have a peace of mind.
Okay.
Same thing when he's here, because if you go to start pray about every little bit about your child, um, it could be also traumatic. Because even when you're with him, when he's running around, he's still 2.5. So he is very energetic. He You can look away and see somebody climbing, a table somewhere. So you know those are the things that you have to also. He's gonna be fine. You don't have to worry about him every single second. But at the same time, you also have to take precautions as a parent, and precautions in terms of making sure that he has all the basic needs, uh, uh, making sure that he's not obviously endangering himself, because also you know there are also some negligence that happen with parents. It's hard to say, uh, but you have to take some precautions. But at the same time, you really have to just revert to that and have, have him protect him, because even the little things, the things that happen to him, they get sick sometimes, they fall. You know, those things will happen, but God always protect them. I mean, not to say that accidents don't happen. You hear accidents here and there. You know, um, kids getting into bad accident, they drown. I mean, get into an accident. It's just like it'll happen. Same way it happened to an adult, it will happen to a child as well. But at the same time, you have to revert to that and just pray that your child is gonna be fine. I always think about this of my parents and wonder, they lived in the situation where they knew that uh, they were not welcomed in the country as Tutsis at the time, during the time they lived there. Stories in my book that talk about how my father was chased away from his hometown and had to his house was burned down. This is back in uh, 70s, I believe. So you can think all these things, they have faced these type of situations before, not to the extent to the genocide in 1994, but it was before myself and my siblings, my some of my older siblings were born. So then he moved to another town and he decided to family and having children. So you have to wonder, as a father, or as a parent, aren't you not worried about what's gonna happen to your kids? But again, if you think that way, if you don't have the trust in God, that God is the only one that will protect, the same way He has been protecting you, is gonna protect them. If having a family is what uh, give you the satisfaction, then you cannot be afraid of having children. But during the genocide, I mean, nobody knew before the genocide that it was going to be to that extent. Although there were some signs of things, may get really bad, but no one ever knew it was going to be like this. So now you can imagine a father with 10 children during the genocide. They have to worry about every single one of them. And they have to worry about themselves and how to survive, how to run away from the killers. This is what happened. So for me, I only have one child. So I think about that, and then I say to myself, you know what? If I had a chance to have 10 or 12, like my father had 12, I will. But I don't think this time, in this age we live in, it'll happen. But I will not be afraid, of having more. But at the same time, you always have to revert to God and knowing that you and your children. One thing I want to mention also, during the genocide, at some point, I found myself with my younger brother and my younger sister in the bushes hiding from the killers. We had just gotten away from another person that almost killed us. How did we? I have no idea. Even this day, I don't understand how we were able to get away from that person. But once we got away, we had to be somewhere and sleep. It was during the night. We couldn't sleep. So we had to stay in the bushes for overnight. But then it was getting lighter in the morning, and we were wondering, well, they're going to find us here in this bushes. So we have to get up and go find another place. At the time, we had an idea of going to one of my family friends. We knew her house. We didn't know it was there, but we were actually making our way to her. So he said, "Well, we have to get up. We have to go. We have to go. We can't in this bushes." So at the time, I was the oldest at 12. My younger brother was 6. My younger sister was 9. So I was the one taking charge of those decisions. Should we stay? Should we go? But I remembered if it's not for God, there's no way we are going to be able to get to my end. I was only 12 years old. But the best thing that my parents had done for us is to bring us up in a Christian family, where every night it was the mass that before we go to bed we pray. So even at 12, I knew that God can protect me. God can lead me along the way. During that time, before we stood up and start going, which we could not see even the direction where we were going because it was at night. I said the prayer, saying, "Please guide us, and prevent us from being killed on the way." And by the way, the killers, we could hear them, or I should say, well, there were people during that night, like down the street, there was some noise, some commotion, which we had been told by another person we met previously. During that walk, we met another guy that said, "Be careful where you're going, because down there, down the street, there are some people who are on a roadblock," and we could hear the noise. Now imagine we're in a situation where we can't cross the road, and we had to cross the road to keep going. And that road was where the people they were, but they were kind of far from where we were going to be crossing. But anyways, as a child, as a 12-year-old child, so terrified. There is no other strength you can find to make you get up, knowing that it's likely that you're gonna meet the killers just down the street in your path. But I do remember, I remembered that only one person could guide along the way was God, and we said the prayer, and we were able to get up and actually walk. And we found our way to my parents' friend, who actually, luckily, we found out that she was still there, and from that, the story continues. It's in my book, so I don't want to give you all the details.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank
My
you, sir.
auntie,
Yes.
there's something Jean has really said. It really started. You see, for him, he was a 12-year-old leading his pack at the time. He was basically the head of the family at the time, because he was the last surviving head of the family at the time. But the same question regarding your children. When this whole thing was happening, you were already a mother at the time. Even earlier in the conversation, you even mentioned that your youngest used to carry Aline on her back. And I'm trying to imagine post post genocide, you guys were able to survive with the remaining family members you had left with. How how, how do you let your kids walk out of the door? Considering, you see, at least for my other speakers, they're actually honest. Like Jim even put it very nicely. Right now in his situation, he only worries about one. His dad worried about 10. I believe for your scenario, the same category as most of our parents, where you are in, I believe right now, where I'm from, I think you are five. I think at any given time, if you ask any of my parents, they are really worried about all of us. So, coming from a situation, trying to understand how do
Thank
you
you.
how do you handle this? And even being part of you see, you are part of even the gachacha, so you actually hearing some of these stories that even didn't even affect you, affect somebody else. The way Jocelyn was saying, sometimes you think you're having a trap, then you hear somebody else side of the story. Then like, oh Lord, I know it. So how do you wake up from that one and let your child go out to the world and fend for themselves? Because I believe most of them are teenagers.
Now, going back to my story, I remember I told you my biological family had fled the country in 1961,
Yes.
when I was 1 year old. So that means I had a part of my family staying in Uganda. When it was during let me see, when the RPF invaded the country, and they started putting Tutsis massively in the prison. 1992, me and my husband, we decided to take our children far away from Rwanda. So we decided to take our children to Uganda. And when the RPF actually, in 1993, when the 600 troops of RPF came to Rwanda and were staying in Kigali, we were expecting peace, because they were allowed to come to join, to mix up with other, the regime of Habyarimana, to have one parliament, including the RPF members of parliament. RPF has to be in the government, but then all of a sudden it erupted as a genocide. So when the RPF were staying in Sende, we decided to go back and bring the kids back. So when I reached Kampala, I was the one who went there to bring the kids back. And we found that the firstborn, the son, was already in the system, in education system of Uganda. So we thought it was not good to disturb him, to bring him back to Rwanda, since he was already established in the system of Anglophones. So we decided to bring his sister back. So our son there survived. That's how he survived. And the one whom we brought back, Diana, is the one who was killed during the genocide. So actually, after genocide, I remained alone. By then, since we had a lot of orphans everywhere, a lot of orphanages were being founded here in Rwanda, and we had a lot of orphans, I decided at least to pick some of the orphans to bring them to my home. I remember there's a time when I had about 15 of them in my home. But gradually they started finding the relatives, so the relatives could come and take them back. And I remained only with the two. Then after, my brother gave birth to a daughter, and they said the daughter looks like me. And he called me and told me, sister, I know you lost your beloved daughter, Diana, and we've gave birth to a certain queen. They called her queen when she was born. And they told me, since you don't have a daughter, we want to give you a daughter. So my brother gave me that daughter, and she was just breastfed for 1 year. That's when I brought her home.
Okay.
So that brought back the motherhood actually inside me, where I could come back from work and take her to my back and hold her, and she was very young. So that one also helped me to bring back the sentiments, the motherhood emotions. And I also decided to bring another one from also a relative to come and stay with the queen, so that they could be raised together, 2 kids. What I remember, as I had entered in the parliament, I was very busy. We could go up and down countries, coming back during the weekends only. So I was suffering emotionally because I was not staying with them. And I was actually even, I was not even trusting other people who were looking after them. So I could always call home day and night. And when I came back, and the following day, maybe on Monday morning, tell them that I'm going back, they could shout, "Oh no, Mama, you are going again, you are going away again." So that sort of, you see, children showing you that they miss you, they need you, it was really challenging. It was challenging. Just recently, when my son, when he was 17, 18, somehow he started talking to me, showing me that all along they have been missing me home. So it was really very challenging, but then I have to be there for them. But the time, to give them the time to talk to them, to befriend them, to become friends with me, I could try my all best to make them happy, but then they could show me that they missed me really because of the busy work I was doing, because of the job I was doing. I had to go down every week. We had to go to move around, stabilize the people, to talk about peace, to talk about reconciliation, to talk about new laws which were supposed to be, drafted. We had to go around the country, to get views from the population. So it was not very easy for me and for my kids, but I thank God they are grown up now. I've got a grandchild, a granddaughter now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Queen and Mhozi. Queen has finished already her university. Mhozi is still in university, but I thank God now we can sit and talk. And it has been a bit challenging. You see, the use of nowadays, they become the ICT of nowadays. They know everything. They go on the internet. They learn things they are not supposed to learn. Things you don't want to talk to them, they know better than you know. So yes. It has been challenging, but all the same, we thank God. It was not easy. Now, if you allow me to continue, you talked about triggers.
Yes.
I want to talk about triggers. Mine is very funny. My triggers are very funny, actually. I remember there is a time when I couldn't attend the weddings.
Wow.
Because I remembered before genocide, I could attend weddings with my husband. So whenever someone invites me to the wedding, I could just, find some excuses. Just because I don't want to attend a wedding, to meet other couples, a husband and wife together. You see? Mm-hmm. Is that a trigger?
That is a trigger.
Is that the real trigger? Is it the...
I think that's a trigger, right?
Yeah, I think that's a trigger. Mm-hmm. So I could dodge some of the weddings until I find one of a friend, a colleague, a woman, a lady or a woman or a brother to be together to attend a wedding. So I remember that one. In the process of healing, it was very difficult for me to attend the weddings. So it sometimes even comes back like a trigger, and I feel, whenever I feel I want even to attend the wedding and that trigger comes, then I find excuses. Okay, I will contribute to the wedding, but I will not go there. So that trigger was also a handcuff for me. Another trigger is when my vehicle breaks down and I have to go to garage. When my vehicle breaks down and I'm obliged to go to the garage, the trigger comes back. I remember when we had a vehicle and I had a husband, he was the one who's supposed to take the vehicle to the garage. So when the vehicle breaks down, I say, oh my God. And I spend a whole day in the garage. That's when the trigger comes. Hey, yes, you are a widow, you are single, yeah. So the triggers keeps coming. Even, you see, going to the salon. I used to go to the salon and tell my husband I'm going to the salon. He takes me, drops there. After then, he comes and pick me back. And we go back home, telling me you are so beautiful, you look nice, and actually he liked hairs, long hairs. So you see, I've got a plaited hair now.
Still maintains the sweetness.
It's not because I like the hair, the long hair. It's just because of COVID. I stopped going to the salon. Otherwise, the very day I was going to the parliament to make a note to the parliament in the salon were about five ladies there, and among one, the lady, I was looking at her, she was next to me. When I entered the parliament, in the entrance of the parliament, but when we were there, the husband came and picked her. Then I said, oh, now that one is being picked by her husband. And when I entered the entrance of the parliament, that the same lady was also coming to the parliament to take an oath. So after we became friends, and I told her, because I've decided within a few months, within a few weeks, I trimmed all my hair. I actually have been having short hair on my head because I never wanted daily to go to the salons. That is a trigger also. So I'm just now keeping my hair because of COVID. Now the kids, especially my son now tells me, Mom, this is my first time seeing you with a long head on your hair. Please don't remove that hair again. Don't trim it. Yes. Now he's urging me not to trim back my hair. Maybe I'll not trim, or maybe I will trim. But those triggers, 3, the garage, the salon, and the weddings. Others, because we had so many widows in this country, some of them, they became widow when they were still very young, better than me. So I could not suffer a lot because I knew I've got just young ladies who were suffering more than I was suffering. So I overcome it, but the triggers still comes. Another thing that I want to highlight and clarify anyway, the genocide actually, it was done in the name of the Hutus, and the Hutus massively actually perpetrated. But there is another good side of some few Hutus that are behind the survival of genocide survivors. Because when you listen to the stories of survivors, you always hear that someone was taken to the massive grave, and a certain killer with a machete, with a club, and comes and tells, oh, you go back to your home. I don't want to see you dying here. Let others tomorrow kill you, or you go and they will kill you somewhere else, next roadblock or next where. So to me, I take it as an opportunity to survive that day because of that one. You can't know why he said that. I don't want you to see your dead body here. Maybe it was the conscience of the killer. If he knew the person, or they were friends, or they what. So most of them could just kill people, kill Tutsi, and just tell them, you go, you will be killed by others. And I've heard that is God actually that planned the survival of the survivors. But for my part, I remember how I came out from after killing my daughter, and after hearing so many testimonies, there are some few Hutus who helped Tutsis, who tried to hide them, who tried to give them what to eat, who did not point out, who did not mention their whereabouts, and yet they knew. So whenever we talk about Hutus committing genocide to Tutsis, we don't want actually to generalize, but those individuals are very few. If they had been so many Hutus, or saying that all Hutus did not kill, I don't like to talk about that all Hutus. I just say few Hutus. Because if they did not, if they hadn't actually gone to the killings, Tutsis should have survived, many of them. But then the number of more than 1 million that were killed that were killed within 3 months only, 100 days, you can see the magnitude of the killings. And we thank for the Hutus. I personally, to manage to get out from the town, from the bushes and the town, and I was transferred to Cyangugu, from Cyangugu to Burundi, past Uvira, and then Burundi, and then Uganda, and then come back to Rwanda. It was just of individual who was a friend of ours actually, who tried to first and foremost, he proposed me to go and buy me a identity card, a Hutu identity card. You see, before genocide, you had identity cards mentioning the ethnic groups where we belonged. I don't know whether you know it, moderator. Yeah.
Actually,
so
know that.
we had.
I didn't know that.
Okay. No, we had area wrong since 59.
Mm-hmm.
The bad regimes established the identity card with the colonial regime, mm-hmm. where they mentioned the ethnics in Rwanda. And that's why actually the genocide was it happened very rapidly. First of all, it was planned, and they knew the numbers of Tutsis, mm-hmm. according to the fish they held in the district, mm-hmm. because they knew that when they gave you the identity card mentioned within your ethnic group, they could leave a copy in the district. It was called by then commune. Mm-hmm. So they knew very well where the Tutsi were staying and their neighborhood. Okay. More to that, most of the Tutsis also had, in order to gain to benefit other benefits, other Rwandese were getting, especially Hutu. They could change their ethnic groups from Tutsi to Hutu, so that their children could go also to school, to the higher schools, to universities, or to some, and others could just take bribe the ministers to give their children a place to go to university. So that friend of ours, a Hutu, he went to our place, to our home. Remember, we had shifted from home and gone to another place to hide ourselves. So when he was told that we have been killed, he went straight to our home to check whether we were really killed. So he found a lot of things destroyed, others scattered there. That's where he got some of our photos, albums, and he started collecting some of them. And in those things, maybe I had a money purse where he found my checkbook, my driving permit, my what else? And my identity, Tutsi identity. So in the middle of genocide, after they have killed my daughter, I went from the bush and I went to the nuns' home. I asked them for the telephone. So they asked me, why do you want to telephone? I told them I want to talk to someone. So I called a friend of mine, that friend of ours, actually trying to tell him that I'm left alone. My family is dead. The last one has been killed, my daughter. I don't feel I want to live again anymore. So will you please, if you can help me? I did not beg for to help me to get out of the country or to help me survive. I was also asking for if we can find someone to come and I pay for the bullet, to kill me with the bullet. Wow. Because during genocide, you see, the women were being raped, you know, they were being raped massively. They could come, a gang of 20 raping them. It was also a tool of killing, of torturing Tutsis women during genocide. So I felt I never wanted to see those gangs coming to me, raping me. So I decided, instead of staying here, now they have known that I'm still alive, the people could talk about that. We've seen someone, we've learned that someone such and such is still alive. We go for her, we go to look for her, for him. So they could spread the news very rapidly, so the killers could come back also and kill you. So when I told the guy to that story, that I want to die with a bullet, he did not allow me to talk about it. I was still thinking about it when I called and they picked the phone with the wife. So he told me, where are you? I thought you were dead. I told him, no, I'm still alive, but they have killed my husband, they have killed my brother, they have killed my brother-in-law, they have killed my daughter. He told me, please hang on, call me again tomorrow. Then I hung up the phone. The following day, I called because I never wanted to tell him where my whereabouts. When I called, he told me that in the things he picked from our home, scattered down there, he picked some photos. So he had an idea of getting a Hutu identity for me. Do you get it? So he tried to take a picture of mine. It was black and white. So he went to they called them burgomestre by then, the mayors. He went to a certain mayor who was a killer also, and tried to persuade him and give me a Hutu identity. So finally, I had to pay money because he had got, remember the things he picked up from my home, from our home, he had picked also my checkbook. So he asked me whether I had money on my account. And I told him, yes, I have money on my account. So he told me, let us try, because they're asking money for the identity, Hutu identity. And told me to sign a check of 480, because he was supposed to buy identity card, and maybe when he succeeds to get me through until I go outside, he would send me the remaining money to me. But then that mayor, when he came to pick me, because he had told him, when I give you the money, you will help me to get this lady from the town and with your own vehicle, because there were a lot of roadblocks everywhere. When the mayor came and found me and recognized me, he said and sweared that no, there is no way where I can help this lady. Remember the background of my parents being in Uganda.
Refugees.
So the RPF had invaded the country from Uganda.
Yeah.
So we had a lady called Nyiramasuhuko, who was a minister of gender by then. So he had come in the meeting, and she mentioned my name, Nyiramasuhuko, in front of those mayors, that I haven't heard news about Harriet, if the Harriet is dead. Because I could actually disturb Nyiramasuhuko in the meetings when she could come and they talk about politics, wearing the badge of Habyarimana, and the political party had started. I was so stubborn, I could tell her I can't attend her meetings. And whenever I attended the meetings, I could disturb the meeting. So when she came down to Butare, she could every time ask whether I'm dead. You see? When the mayor came, the mayor said, no, I can't help this lady. She's in Kotanyi, she's a RPF. I can't help her. Please, you take back your money. I'm not helping her. And that friend of ours, actually, I saw the man shedding tears in front of me and in front of the mayor, because he knew when the mayor goes back, he's going to bring the killers, or himself. He will go in his vehicle, because he was working with the guns in their vehicles. So when he went out, the man thought that he's going to bring the gun for shooting me. And then he went and he pleaded, and the mayor came back and said, you woman. He said, Ichigore, woman. So I was a businesswoman by then. I was dealing with stationaries. I had a store bookshop of stationaries, and all commune could come and buy the equipment from my store. So he told me, the all communes bring money to you. If you are not going to pay $1 million of francs Rwandais by then, I'm not going to give you the identity. I remember I had like 1,000, 2,000. When I had 2,000 traveling checks. Huh? So it was in 500. I got two notes, two, how do you call it? I got 1,000 of traveling check. I gave it to him, and at least they helped me to get out from the town. One did it for the money, for the sake of the money. Another one, excuse me. Another one did it for the sake of love, for the sake of sympathy. So that's what I was just clarifying. I had even Josiane she talked about it, that some of the Hutus were not actually, did not commit genocide. And most of the testimonies I hear from the genocide survivors, there is a Hutu behind the survival. That's what I wanted to clarify, and giving you a bit of my testimony that during the genocide, I bought actually an identity card, and a Hutu identity card, $1 million francs Rwanda. So, which was very funny. I had my Tutsi identity. By the way, when the man took me through Gikongoro and Changugu, there were a lot of many roadblocks. But because I was in the vehicle of the mayor, in the vehicle he had, they called them police brigade, yeah, communal policemen. Do you remember them?
Yeah.
Who? Josiane. Do you remember communal policemen? Yes. Yes. So in the van, it was a van. Behind in the van, there were a policeman. The mayor was going with the escort. So the man who helped me and the mayor was driving, and the mayor and the man was on he was a co-driver, and in the van there were the policeman, the communal policeman, who had the other huge gun. So he could just step on me, because when I lied down, they put some mattresses, they were moving around with the beer cases in the vehicle. So they put on that, all those heavy beer cases on top of me and with the mattress. So I could feel him. He could bring down his, the top of his gun. He could step on me like this until I do remember succeeding. So he was not happy that his boss was actually trying to help me. So, but I do salute few Hutus at least who managed to help Tutsis during genocide, because they were also risking their lives. But there are some, and I think there are some of them who were even given the medals for thanking them by His Excellency. So during Gachacha time, when they were collecting information, people could talk about those who helped the Tutsi during the genocide, the few ones. And even those Hutus, they even gave up the real information. They gave the information and the truth about the killings, how it happened in their in their villages. So that's what I wanted also to share if we were not yet done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Auntie. Auntie has started something very interesting, and I think it is what I shall piggyback on so that at least can be a closing remark. Because if anything, from what I got from her is that if anything, if you are to take out of this whole conversation, Hash is coming from a situation where not all the other side is bad. There, some of you guys are actually here because the other guys who are willing to shelter you guys. So, Jean had even said some of you are telling me don't go that side. That side is really bad. Go to the other side.
Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
So, and
Mm-hmm.
it is in that spirit I'll ask Josiane to give me your parting remarks. As in, out of this whole conversation, if anybody was to remember anything about Josiane, out of this whole deal, what will is it that you will really want to share with them, and what will be your parting shot? I would like you to keep it brief because I think I've gone past my timeline, and I really
Mm-hmm.
appreciate it.
Mm.
Josiane, the floor is yours, Mama.
Thank you, thank you. So, what I want to tell the survivors, yeah, is that healing is a process, but is an attainable project. What you need is just allow yourself to start. To start that journey is a journey, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Is a journey with different stages. I might be one, if the stage is 1 to 10, I might be on 7th, Aline is at 9. Someone else is a journey of stages.
We are
Allow,
on different stages, yeah.
yes, allow yourself to start that journey. Is hard, is bitter, but with God is attainable project.
Thank you very much for your brief. The same question to Jim, parting short. And also, if anybody was to remember Jim today, what is it that you really would like them to remember out of this whole conversation from where you're standing? Jean, unmute, unmute. You are dispensing wisdom and you're not hearing it. Please unmute so that you can hear the beautiful wisdom.
Okay, sorry about that. Yes, uh, I would like to say that no, praise, praise the Lord to have given me the opportunity to still be breathing, living, and um, have the health that unfortunately many do not have, physically and mentally. What that means for me is that I have found my calling and why I believe that God has spared me from having those type of wounds, even still having the different traumas, but to not the extent that I'm not still able to live and be functional. So
Mm.
it is the opportunity for me to help other people, other survivors, genocide survivors of the Rwandan genocide against the Tutsis, but also other survivors of violence of any kind. Uh, Now, when you have the opportunity, when you still breathing, you still living, there is something that you can share about your story because you're not the only
Mm.
one who's had been affected, but you may be the person that is maybe has the courage to live with the wounds, and others don't have. I'd say they don't. They still haven't found healing. but you can help them by telling them how you cope with this type of situation. Like I said earlier, going through this type of situations, I may not be the only one that is having these situations, but also sharing how do you cope with, how do you manage to still live a daily life, manage to take care of your family. I want to say that I am determined to continue to share my story. Also to make sure that more story like mine are told, by encouraging other people to write theirs. They don't have to be in the form of a book. There are other ways you can share your story. And I really commend Aline for taking this initiative to bring to life stories. Josiane's is in honorable stories, because you don't have to write a book to tell a story to the world. You don't have to. You don't need to. But the stories need to be told. Many, many, many. I wish every single person, every single survivor can tell their story.
Yeah.
We know it's not possible, but it is a long journey that us only survivors and friends of survivors can help fulfill. Because we have children, grandchildren, who will be the ones that having to deal with it when they're gone. Same way we take care of our children and send them to school so that they can better in life themselves. It's the same way we have to help them, not having to answer questions they don't even have answers to. We don't teach them, we don't educate them about their loved ones, the family of their loved ones that were killed in the genocide. If we don't share these stories to our children to begin with, who else is going to share these stories to them? Because they will be the ones who will be talking about us when we're not here. They're gonna be the ones, but we have to engage them now, because if we don't engage them now when they are young, they're not gonna be able to be engaged at a later age.
Thank you, Jim, for that brief. I'd like to go to Auntie. What is your parting shot? With all this, you had mentioned about we should always remember the good side of those you guys actually ensure that all of you are here with us today. Some even ensure the continuation of of Jean's livelihood, because now the people who saved him are the reason why even now he has a son. And what something else you can add to this conversation regarding this one? As a parting shot, a brief parting shot.
Well, let me thank you, moderator. Thank you, Aline and Ja and Josiane. Being together with you, it was a pleasure to me, actually. I'm honored to be with you tonight. And when we talk and talk and talk about our stories, it's also a process of healing. When you remain with actually, those who started writing, they had nowhere, they had no opportunity even to talk about their stories. They can talk their stories, but then when you write a book, you talk more. You tell the whole world. You don't talk to a few numbers of audience you have. So I would like to congratulate Ja and Aline. And the last word I want to talk is to talk about genocide deniers, actually. whenever genocide happens, there are always the stage, they call it stage 8 of deniers, who deny the genocide. Now, everywhere in the world, we've got fugitives, we've got the perpetrators who are still at large, running, and they do their best actually to bring up a theory of double genocide. When they talk about genocide, they talk just about a theory, but genocide against Tutsis that happened in 1994, it was a genocide, it was a crime, and it is a crime, it will remain a crime. So they should know that. Genocide, actually, it can't happen without planning it. Let me give you an example. I told you about my husband, losing his parents in 1963, where Tutsis also were killed in south and west part of Rwanda. It was called Gikongoro by then. He became an orphan since he was young. That was the practice actually of killing Tutsi. They practiced killing Tutsi, and whoever committed the crime of killing Tutsi, he was rewarded a big position in the government, not punished. And in 1990, when the RPF invaded the country, the northern part or northern western part of Rwanda, the ethnic Tutsi called Bagogwe were killed. 1990, they were killed, massively killed, murdered. They massacred them massively. And 91 in Bugesera, other massacres happened to Tutsis. Their homes, their properties were taken away. They put on fire their homes and they were killed. That was 91 and 92. 93, it was a chaos. They were continue killing Tutsis. 94, it was a final determination where they determined to clean, to exterminate the Tutsi ethnic group. So, when the deniers talk about the double genocide, they should know that genocide cannot happen without planification, without planning it, without actually exercising it, without actually practicing it. They should know that. So whenever they are on run, at large, others are in Europe, others are in America, they're everywhere. They should know that Rwandese will never allow genocide to happen again. We've seen bad things happening to us. Women and children becomes the most victims. Actually, in genocide, women also committed genocide. We've got so many women in prison here who committed genocide. They could. You see, me, I can't even understand genocide. Do you know some in a usual time, in a usual way, women becomes jealous of their men, you see, cheating on them. But can you imagine during genocide, a woman could bring the husband, the son, the brothers to come and violate, you know, and torture a woman. And it was being done by the fellow the fellow women. So genocide deniers should know that actually the song they are singing, it's just a theory. It's not true. There never happened a double genocide in Rwanda. They talk about Mugunga, where they had run to Congo side. They talk about how they were killed in the bushes and the jungles of Congo. But that was not true. So my message to the deniers is to tell them that since we are still here, we shall fight them. As Aline said. You see, we've got a good example of Hotel Rwanda, whom he claimed himself as a hero. It has got a lot of controversy, and the genocide. Actually, he's a genocide denier, because if he claims to have saved the lives of Tutsis, how come he turns back to come and kill Rwandese in the aim of exterminating the Tutsi? So it is just the last message I wanted to give to the genocide deniers everywhere they are. They won't manage again to come and kill people as easy as that. No, it will never happen again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Auntie. And last but not least, our author, the main header of the day,
Yes.
Ali. I would like your parting shot out of this whole conversation.
Yeah.
What is it that you feel like if anybody really forgets about the whole thing? We've been talking for the past 3 hours. So if somebody for the past 3 hours really came in and out and just fast forward to the end to our final remarks, what will be yours to them?
I would say two things. The first thing that Aunt Harriet actually ended with, I will start it with. One of the reasons why I I am ferociously determined um, to speak out, to find genocide survivors, to encourage them to speak up, to create a place like this to be able to share stories. Next week we'll be back. The week after we'll be back. We will not stop talking. We will have more people. We will have more speakers for two reasons. The first reason is to bring awareness of what Rwanda is, because unfortunately we have to stop allowing people to describe our own story when we have people that lived the story. Like it's like somebody coming to talk about you when you are next to them. Why not asking you to talk about your own story and your own history? For me, I'm sorry to say that, but me, I'm tired of having people talking about the history of Rwanda without Rwandese people. Because at
Sure.
the end of the day, these people that are talking about double, triple genocide or massacre or whatsoever they are talking about, those people, most of them have never gone back to Rwanda since 1994. Those people have never put feet in it. I know that because I lived with some of them. And those people keep on talking about the fact that they also lost their loved one and everything like that. But let me put it this way. When you have your mother, your father, your siblings next to you, and you tell me that you lost a cousin, when somebody lost everybody and has
Everybody.
nobody next to it, there's no comparison here. When they are
Sure.
when they are family that completely disappeared, that are wiped out of the map because they were burned alive in their own house. I'm not talking about theory here. My father was engaged. He was about to get married, and Auntie Harriet can testify that before the
Yes.
genocide. And his fiancée and and her entire family were burnt alive in their home. So when I'm talking about genocide, I'm not talking about political thing here. This is reality. We have to stop acting like nothing happened. There are people that today there's no name of them, there's no recollection, nobody survived because they were burnt alive there. So I feel like all these people that are deniers, and they need to hear us speak loud. They need to hear us speak as loud as we can. And the reason why I'm passionate and you can hear my voice rising is because I am not afraid anymore. If they couldn't kill me 27 years ago, if they couldn't kill me in Burkina, if they couldn't kill me in Rwanda or South Africa or wherever I've grown, it's not now that I have Christ that I have to be afraid. So I want to talk to every genocide survivor. Right now, I'm speaking to especially genocide survivor of 1994 against Tutsi. Every person who survived the genocide against Tutsis of 1994, it is your duty to share your story. Because if you don't share your story, you are giving them the power to write your own story. You are giving them the power to deny the death of your loved one. This is not politics. Think about the people that die within minutes. My dad was not supposed to be dead. It was not the will of God for him to die. Josiane's families were not the will of God to die. Aunt Harriet's husband and children were not the will of God to die. These people were taken at their life, at the peak of their life. We have to fight for those voices that are voiceless. We have to stand up. And united we can stand the same way. Every places where people unite their voices, they stand. Today, everybody is talking about I can't breathe because people stood up and say enough is enough. Enough is enough. The whole world stood up because one person lost his life, and the whole world started marching and protesting. Enough is enough for people to talk about double genocide and everything. I'm not here as a politician. I'm here as a broken child who lost her father, who witnessed my own dad screaming his last voices to the end. I cannot accept when somebody says that there's no genocide. Because my dad didn't deserve to die. Nobody who lost their life in those 100 days deserved to die. It's time for us to stand. And I don't care if they want to kill us. Let me tell you this. If they couldn't kill us, they would never kill us again. If there's anything I want to leave today, is that we have to stop being afraid to talk. We have to talk. We have to write. We have to stand together. And until the time when I will hear the news talk about Rwanda and the genocide, until the day I'm going to hear people talk about our loved one, not only on April 7th, until the day I hear the leaders in the world talk about how in 100 days the country was left on its own. That's when I'll stop talking. And I'm really asking that we all stand up, and it's not anything, it's the cry of my heart that we can stand up and silence those deniers once and for all.
Thank you, Aline. Uh, I think as a moderator and has been part of the conversation, as an outsider looking in, I wouldn't have summarized whatever my panelists have put out there. And from what I'm learning from all these people is very simple. You're all just a bunch of people who are trying to make sure their story is heard and nobody controls their story. Part of the reason why some of us are having this conversation online is because we were put in a situation that we can only have this conversation online. We were supposed to put it in a live setting, but somebody had their own plans. But at least the beauty about the internet is that from different corners of the world, for some of us who are in Kenya, some of you guys are still in Rwanda, some in the US, we were able to have this conversation. As a journalist in my home country, just Fernanda likes to put in it, the moment you stop talking is the moment you start fighting. So kudos to my panelists. Please continue sharing your stories in any platform you get a chance. And Harriet likes to put it very well. She hasn't written any book, but she will not stop speaking. For Josiane, all the best in your book. Keep the good work. You say that we talked about there's a future and you really want to show the power of forgiveness and everything like that. For Jean, thank you also for getting time, sparing your time to share your stories. We are talking about the book is titled Legends in My Life. And I really like the title of the book, it's really nice. For those who didn't have a get a chance, please be a lookout for Jim. You'll find him on the social media handles that are actually the ones showing at the end there. That's how you can find Jim. For Aline also, she has the main author today. We are part of her book tour. As she mentioned earlier, we will continue with the book tour. We shall have these conversations. Even with COVID and everything, we shall continue with have this conversation. And the, the, the discussion will become broader. Anyway, all in all, I have been your moderator for the day. I go by the name of Kennedy Maikuma.
Thank you
I'm
very
really
much.
humble. I'm
Thank
really
you very
humbled by
much.
this.
Thank you so
Great.
much, Kenneth.
And
You did a good job.
yes, thank you very much, guys. Aline, you're on mute. I
Thank
don't know what you're trying to say. Yes.
Sorry, I wanted to add that next week we will be back, and we will be talking more about other topics. So please join, because we cannot explain uh, histories of the genocide in 3 hours. We cannot
Thank
explain. I
you,
don't
guys.
even think you can watch, you can talk about. I think we just brushed the top. We still have to go deeper. So as I said, we will be back next week. So please invite your friend, invite your peep, anybody who needs to know the history of Rwanda, anybody who is Rwandan or African or Asian or anything. You might think that, okay, these people are African, doesn't describe me, but let
I think I
sorry.
lost Aline for a second there. In short, all in all, whatever Aline was trying to say before I lost her for a second, thank you guys. I really
That,
appreciate for your time and for your net. I know for some of us in who are having this live in Kenya, I think it's around 3 a.m. in the morning. I believe we need to go rest. For guys in Seattle, I believe probably it's at 7 p.m. on your side. For
Yeah.
Jean, I think it's almost late also at the same time. For
It's
Auntie Harriet,
even
I
past.
believe it is almost 2 in the morning. So thank
Sorry,
you
I
Yeah.
guys for
lost it.
those.
I lost it, but I will see you next week. We will see you next week. I wanted to just say, don't come alone. Invite more people because
Thank
we
you.
Yeah.
will talk more about the
Thank you.
history.
Thank you. In my panelists, I had the Honorable Sebera with me. I had as best-selling author Jean with me. I had also best-selling author Aline with me, and also had upcoming author Josiane. It's been
Thank
real.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for the discussion. Have a lovely night. Judos,
Love you.
share with your friends.
Thank
Have
you so
fun.
much. Thank you,
Bye,
everyone.
I
everybody.
love you
Thank you,
all.
Thank
everyone.
you, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
Bye.
God
Bye.
bless you.